Namaskar. Welcome everyone, and thank you, Jyoshna, for being with us today. Present about Kiirtan, a Supra aesthetic science. I'm just going to give the briefest of introductions. Jyoshna is a devotee of spiritual teacher, Sri Ananda. She's a musician and an ethnomusicologist. So, Jyoshna, please, we want to hear your story about Kiirtan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to be able to share these experiences with people who I believe have a connection with Kiirtan and with Baba Sri Ananda. Some of the things, when I try to put into order what is a Supra ascetic science of Kiirtan, it took me quite a long time to really come to grips with that sentence, as you can imagine, Supra ascetic science of Kiirtan. In fact, it was after my PhD was finished, after the Viva itself, that I felt like the penny dropped when I actually could really put it together in my mind, how to organize this definition of Kiirtan as a Supra ascetic science. So it took many years of research for me to be able to express or try to express the meaning of this definition of Kiirtan. But first of all, I needed to talk about the styles of Kiirtan so that we know what we're talking about. So in Kiirtan, there's three main styles. There's the Pada Kiirtan, which is the verse or the songs, Kiirtan songs. And I'll read this quote out because I think it's very nice. This category of song directly reflecting Parampurusha is known as Kiirtan. The other category of song that also reflects Parampurusha but expresses many ideas before returning to the one central idea of Parampurusha is called Bhajan. And he's going, I encourage these things. So we don't often hear about Kiirtan songs. We mostly hear about Kiirtan in terms of Bhavanam Kevalam.
And what is the meaning of the word Parampurusha?
Parampurusha means supreme consciousness. Supreme consciousness. So there's bhajan, as we know, these songs that we write about spiritual experiences, and then there's Kiirtan songs, and there's a difference between these. So Kiirtan songs are those that express directly the qualities of the Supreme, the qualities of the Divine. So it might be somebody, for example, one day I was watching a video of Baba. I think it might have been one of the videos of Baba in Jamaica. And after that, watching that, I was watching it every morning for about a week. And after that, this song came to me called None More Beautiful Than Him. And that song, I feel, is a Pada Kiirtan. It's a song that directly expresses the qualities of the Divine. That's an example of a Pada Kiirtan. And so some of you who might have been in Ananda Marga for many years will remember Dada Nita Satyananda. So he's a Dada, been in the Marga since the 60s. And he wrote many Pada Kirtans, and this is how he described them himself. So he called his songs Pada Kirtan, so they're songs that describe qualities of his beloved. And then there's Nam Kirtan, which is the most common type of style of Kiirtan, which is what we sing, Hare Krishna sing. So many spiritual groups around the world sing Nama Kirtan, Alleluia, for example. It's a Nama Kirtan. So it's just expressing the name of God directly, the name of the beloved, the name of the divine directly. And then in amongst Nama Kirtan, there are different categories. There's a Khanda Kirtan, which we do. Sometimes we do 3 hour, 6 hour, 12 hour, 24 hour, whatever. At the moment, we're up to 3 years in the Khanda Kirtan for peace that's been going on since the beginning of the war in Ukraine. That's in the Khanda Kirtan. And then there's the Avata Kirtan. Avata means turning. So when we turn in 6 different directions, this is called Avata Kirtan. And of course we know that Avata Kirtan has different ideations that go with each side that we turn to when we're doing Bhavanam Kevalam Kirtan. So that's Avata Kirtan. Then of course my favourite of all is Katha Kirtan, which is storytelling about experiences with the divine, but also interspersed with Nama Kirtan. So those are the 3 main categories. So I'm going to take you on a journey to Ra, because Ra is this place in India where it's like a musical gold mine. I didn't know that it would be like that for me when I first went there. And this was after my guru had passed. When I first started researching the music culture of Ra, it was first started was 1997, 96, when I first started researching the music culture. And I didn't know how rich a region this was until I actually spent so much time there. First time I went there, I spent 8 months there. And why is it so? It's a very interesting area. Geographically, it's a very interesting area. It's surrounded by hills. It's a natural geographical area. It's surrounded by hills which were at one time said to have been higher than the Himalaya peak. So it's got these natural boundaries. And during the last ice age, it was said that this particular region was not frozen, was not covered by ice, or if it was still livable. And so, and in this area, there's also some major rivers in there passing through. One of those being the Subbanareka River. And so it's like a confluence of different currents, different cultural expressions. And in the heart of this area of Ra is a place called Purulia district. And that's where I was based, in this area of Purulia district. And Purulia district, there's also, as some of you may know, Ananda. That's also in Purulia district. So this is the heartland of Ra, where you might say the richest of the rich of the gold mine is there in this area of Purulia. So I had no idea what was Rari Kirtan like until I did my master's there. I researched the major music genres there. And then my last experience there in 2001, after finishing my master's, was I went there to do a documentary, and I saw for the first time a Rari Kirtan group perform. And never in my life could I imagine how I would feel. It was the first time in my life that I felt this, like a torrent of tears, and my whole body was trembling and shaking. It was like some kind of occult, it's like some sort of occult symptom, but like a hurricane of bliss, you might say, a tornado of bliss overcame me. And afterwards I was surprised, I was astonished. I thought, how could they create this feeling, and how is this possible? It was really truly like a suprasthetic experience. It was a transformational, transcendental experience. So then I resolved I was going to work out and research the mechanics of this, how they created this experience in people. So I went back in 2005 and I spent 5 years there, on backwards and forwards, going from there to the SOAS, School of Oriental and African Studies, part of London University. So I went there and I've delved into this well of devotional music. And the way that I did this research was, I was focused. I was based in a village called Dabod, which was where my research partner, Sanjay Mahato, who I called Tinku, was living. And there, we started from there. We would go out from there to the different villages. We started off by going to the different festivals. The first one I went to was a 14-day Kiirtan festival. And it was at that festival that I met this group called the Kostika group. I met them for the first time. They didn't make such an strong impression on me the first time I saw them. But then when we organised a festival, a 3-day festival at Tinku's village, they came, they performed, and they won the competition. I mean, in Ra, it's very common to have competitions, Kiirtan competitions. And I wasn't aware of that at the time, but the villagers obviously were. And at the end of the festival, they chose that group. And I was kind of astonished by why they chose that group. And they told me the story that just a few years ago, this group was renowned as the most notorious, or the village where they came from, was renowned as the most notorious criminal village. Like, it was where politicians used to go to employ people to do harm to others. It was a terrible place to go. And this Kiirtan group came from that village, because traditionally that village had had a Kiirtan group, but it had ended, and then the village had come into some financial strife, so they started to do different criminal activities, and as a result they became renowned for that. But then what happened was, the village, there's all sorts of calamities started to hit the village, environmental, also family quarrels and things. Sickness started to enter into the village, and their form of therapy was Kiirtan. They decided they had to start again their Kiirtan group, so they did, and they employed this Kiirtan guru called Jagaron Mahato to come and teach them Kiirtan, and he's very super strict. And he turned that team, over a period of 2 years, he turned that team to a top-notch Kiirtan group. They won this competition. So that was it was a real eye-opener for me, how this Kiirtan had transformed not just these people, not just this group, but the whole village from where they came. So over a period of time, over that 5 years, I would visit them, I would go to the festivals, and then I would video them, and I would go back to their village, I'd play them the video, and I'd ask them, well, what's happening here? What's this happening here? And they'd say, oh, that's this particular rag. And so what was really fascinating was that they had names for all their kirtans. And these names were like the names of different local rags mostly. Most of them were local. Some of them were based on classical names, but most of them were local. And so I'm just going to carry on actually, tell the story as we go. So this is Tinku on the left-hand side in the green shirt. That's Tinku, my research partner, who sadly passed during COVID. This is the village down the bottom there. That's his village there. And this is a group of us who went for training with Jagaron. Jagaron is the one holding the coal drum. That's Jagaron Mahato. Tinku's the one standing in the middle there. So we had a month-long intensive Kiirtan training with Jagaron some years back. And these are just photos of the village of Dabor. And then there's a Kiirtan group at the top there. So I'm just going to play you a very short excerpt of this group, the Kostika group, from the Kostika village. So this group is the ex-criminal group, you might say, but they're mostly made up of a couple of families and then a few of the other villages. And you'll notice that one of the guys playing the drum, he was the one who was an expert at knives. So he then transferred his skills to playing the drum. All of them were kind of strong guys, and they transferred their strength to playing the kartals or the cymbals or the drums or whatever. I'll play you a short excerpt of this now. There's quite a lot of those videos up on my YouTube channel if you want to have see more of them. Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to say before I move on?
I have a question. I was
Sure.
just wondering, they're all men, and are women traditionally playing any kirtan in India? And was it strange for you as women in the photo I saw? It was a group of women who were studying there. Was there any social
There
implication?
was no problem with that. No, they were very open to women learning. It's hard to explain exactly the reason why it's all male groups, but there are groups, that one particularly, but there are groups that are a mixture. There are mixtures. And these days there's also groups that are all women, especially in Bangladesh up the top there. But there are reasons why there aren't so many women, at least when I was there in the groups. And that has largely to do with a lot of the Kirtan groups actually perform through the night. And most of the women wouldn't be able to do that, for reasons of family mostly. But it's not like anyone's barred from Kirtan. No, it's not. Like in different villages, the women do participate. Any other questions or comments? The kind of Kirtan, what they call their Kirtan, they use the word marai. Instead of Nama Kirtan, they use the word marai. And marai has a beautiful meaning. It means to grind the name of God so that it becomes nectar, like to drink for the gods. That's the word marai. Literally it means circle, but the inner meaning is to grind the name of God. That was a word that was commonly used for Kirtan and Ra. This area of Ra is really deeply drenched in love for Shiva. It's like Shiva temples everywhere in every village. And when they're singing their mantra, which is Hari Bolo, Hari meaning the name of God, Bolo mean call or say, they're actually thinking of both Shiva, there's a photo of Shiva on the left, and of Krishna together. But Shiva the Adi Guru, the original Guru in this region. And before the Kirtan tradition really became established, Namakirtan tradition, I should say, there were the Baals. And you may have heard of the Baals. They call them the mystic songs of the Baals. And that's a tradition of songwriting where they use a lot of Tantric texts in their songs. And they do their own spiritual practice. The Baals are really famous. Some of you may have heard this woman Parvati Baal. She's really famous at the moment, a really lovely woman from Shantinikeetana. So Baal, Sri Ananda Murti said that the precursors of Kirtan, Namakirtan, was Baal music, Tantric music, or the mystic songs. And then he goes on to say that the Kirtan of Ra is not merely samgit, meaning dance, song and instrumental music. It sways the finite humankind with the vibration of the unlimited and infinite. Hence it is outstanding and unparalleled. And when I read that sentence, outstanding and unparalleled, before having the experience myself, it didn't really mean much to me. But having been there and experiencing it and understanding more depth about the tradition, I really understand. I have an understanding of what Sri Anandamurti is saying there. Because of this super ascetic science, which I feel like they've closely, almost perfected, you might say. But from this area of Ra, many of the great Kirtan poets or great devotional poets have come. One of the most famous ones is this Gita Govinda of Jayadev, which is from the 11th century. This is a Pada Kirtan, and it's all about the love between Radha and Krishna. And according to traditional accounts, Jayadev would sing his verses or kirtans, and his wife Padmavati would dance to them. So from the very beginning, kirtan was not just singing, but it was also dance and instrumental music. And I think that's something very unique about the kirtan that we do as well, that combination of dance, instrumental music, and singing. And then we're looking at like 500 years ago when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came through Ra. He came through Ra on his way to Puri, and he was accompanied by his friend Nityananda, who was from Ra. In this little picture here, you can see Chaitanya in the front there, and in the back is Nityananda. And he was from Berabum, which is in Ra, and he took Chaitanya through Ra, and they visited a lot of the Kirtan groups. He came in touch with Rari Kirtan then, and he was the one who said, to the tunes of Ra and in the speech of Ra, with the words of Ra, I shall sing Kirtan. So from he recognized, the qualities of Rari Kirtan. So we've gone from Pada Kirtan, which was Jayadev's Gita Govinda and many other amazing poets, such as Chandidas, and we go to Namakirtan, which came in with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the 15th century. And that's when he created that mantra, Hare Krishna, which we hear all the time from the Hare Krishna groups. It was created by him. So Kirtan was not just a spiritual practice, but it was also a way of drawing together different castes, different religious, so it had political impact as well. Political, social, educational impact, which it still does today. And what was interesting was that Chaitanya carried with him the books by the Pada Kirtans by Jayadev and by Chandidas. He carried them with him. They were his inspirations. And then came this very important fellow called Narottama Das, who was a disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was a classically trained musician, but he preferred Kirtan, and he revolutionized the Kirtan structure. And today, still, they use this structure in their Kirtans. And this was something very transformational that he brought to the Kirtan. So really brief chronology here. We've got Shiva Parvati. Of course, Parvati was the one who created Lalita Mamaka, was the Kirtan dance, which we'll talk about in a minute. Then we have the Baals. This is, they're 1,000 years ago. Then we've got Jayadev, 12th century, 11th, 12th century. Then we've got the Chandidas poets in the 14th century. These are Pada Kirtans. Then we've got the invention of Namakirtan in the 15th century. Then in the 16th century we have the devotional poets. Narottama Das is one of those, and they're very important even today. So what's really unique about Rari Kirtan is something quite interesting. It's, when we hear a classical piece, there's a structure inside of that classical piece. There's maybe different movements, fast, slow, whatever, but there's a structure inside of it, somewhat of a structure. Well, in Rari Kirtan, what sets it apart from the Kirtan that we do these days in the West is that there is a structure within it, and that structure is is there to create this transformational experience, is to arouse devotion in the singers. It's very scientific, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. So the structure within it, as I say, is geared to creating intensity, but it doesn't go straight to the intensity. It starts off with this mighty explosion, which kind of like awakens everybody. It's like the Kundalini just bursts within you with this huge. You heard it in the beginning where they were inside the temple and they were playing the call really, really loud. That's the opening kind of explosion. And then they go to some very slow part, called the alap, where they're just singing very slowly, long sustained notes with the rhythm coming in intermittently. And from that, they go into the main melody, which just starts off very slow. After that, when the main melody is established, the drums are playing their set patterns, the cymbals are playing their set patterns, then comes in what I call a vocal hocket, which is like if you have one musical phrase or one melody and you break that up into three parts. It's one melody, but you break it up into three parts. So one person sing one note, another person another note, etc., to make one phrase. So it's kind of like a relay. If I pass you the baton, then you pass it to the next person. And this creates a strong sense of connectedness, of unity amongst the group, because they're sharing the musical phrase, not just singing together, but they're also sharing the phrase. And then comes what they call the matan, or the climax of a particular rag, where they're dancing, and they're dancing is fast, they're singing at the top of their voices, the cold drums are pounding, and there's this real feeling of intensity, of excitement in the air. And after that, the rhythm changes again, and the drummers come forward, and they do like an improvisation on the drums, while they're singing the mantra behind, while they're singing Haribol behind. So the mantra never stops, but there's like a section where the drummers come forward and share their expertise and so forth. So within this, what it sounds like a cacophony of sound, there's a very formal structure which then elevates Kiirtan from being like a you might say a folk tradition to being similar to, if not above, a classical tradition, because in a way it's even more structured than many classical symphonies, and it's also with the intention of creating transcendentalism, the intention of taking people very high. So that's something that I discovered in my research, which had never been revealed before. And the reason it had never been revealed before was because the other researchers that had come to Ra saw it as a religious practice, and so they didn't find it interesting, but they didn't realize that Kiirtan pervades the whole structure of the village. It's like something that is intrinsic to them. Kiirtan is intrinsic to every village. Every village has a Kiirtan festival every year, and everyone attends it. So it's like as if we would have our Easter or something, but full of music. So it's a very important part of village life. So Shushiananda Murti talks about Kiirtan he says, so amongst all form of Samgit, Kiirtan is the best. And Samgit means dance, song, and instrumental music, all three. Kiirtan is not just song, dance is also part of it. The combination of dance, song, and instrumental music creates a pure and heavenly atmosphere. And what will happen to a person? A person will forget her himself. And this is the definition of supra-ascetic science, when we feel so absorbed, we're so absorbed in the sound, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, in every way absorbed, that we lose our sense of self. We're in this flow, you might say. But to get there, that's the interesting part. To get to that point, it's a science behind it, the systematic process behind it. We know that the kind of definition of ascetics is something that the science of pleasure through different expressions, and the supra aspect is the transformational aspect of it. So just to understand a little bit about the science of mantra. So mantras change according to the psychological evolution of society. 5,000 years ago it was the sound used for Shiva, and then it's changed. In 2,500 it was Namah Shiva Namah, and then changed again, and then 500 years ago it was a Hare Krishna mantra. And then of course we have Bhavanam Kevalam, which is quite recent. So it's not that it's been the same mantra the whole way along. No, it's changed. And so to touch the embodied soul, the songs must have rhythm, melody, and bhav, or feeling. And the Kiirtan teacher Jagaran, as he said, we use only 2 words, Hari Bolo, yet all of our emotions are expressed towards the Supreme. And you can really see that. And if there's one thing that I took away from that 5 years of delving very deeply into the Kiirtan, is that when they do Kiirtan, they give their all, physical, mental, and spiritual energy in the Kiirtan itself. So every emotion that they're feeling, that comes up in them, that is directed towards the Supreme, that comes out through their voices, through their movements, though in a very, you might say, a very systematic way. I'm going to go here. What about creativity? So as we know, there's lots of kirtan melodies out there. Many people have the inspiration to create tunes. Our tunes at the moment, and at least in Landamaga, they're not traditional. We don't have a central corpus of ragas that we can pull from. We don't have that as yet, but that doesn't. But we are developing that. And we have a body of work called Prabhat Sangeet, as many of you know, from which we can draw a lot of our kirtan tunes, as well as our own original ones. And as Sri Sri Anandamurti says, today and in future, as well, many new rags and raginis can and will be created. No stoppage should be allowed in this matter. And then, sort of in a joking way, I have also created a few new ragas. Of course, he created many, many new ragas in Prabhat Sangeet. So I think that's what's interesting, is saying we must continue to create our kirtan tunes. There should be no stopping that. That's part of our creative expression. And in fact, these things are encouraged. So as I was saying, there's a central corpus of kirtans in each tradition, and they have their own traditional tunes, their own traditional ragas that they draw from. And a person who's training in kirtan, which can take between 2 and 50 odd years, the first kirtan teacher I met had been training for, I guess, about 35 years, if not longer. And because you think, oh, how can that be? Well, there's so many rags to learn, there's so many rhythms to learn, as well as the coordination in the groups. So you can be a kirtan expert and have studied it for your whole life, and there's still more to learn, really. And they have different names for their kirtans, like Daspera, Pakachuta, and all of those connect to specific songs. So there's the song first. Oftentimes there's a song first, a Padakirtan, and from that song comes the Namakirtan. And I found when I was there that it was really reassuring to know that the way that I write kirtans was actually the traditional way, because most of my kirtans come from songs, and then that song, then I take them and do Bhabnam Kevalam after that song. And it's really good to have it like that, because then you remember, when you know the song, you remember the kirtan tune. So, and you also remember the ideation that went behind that tune. So it's very, very helpful. So I have this question for you. What do you think is the Anandamaga Kirtan tradition? Do you feel like there are some tunes that could form be part of our traditional music culture, traditional kirtan culture? Do any kirtans come to mind that you think would be maybe fit in that category?
Can I make a remark?
Sure.
That's very interesting what you say, that kirtan is derived from a song, because I remember I am French, and I was looking for some a website of Ananda Marga in French, and I remember reading exactly the contrary, that it was expressed that kirtan should not be derived from song, because then it loses some of its sanctity. Or so that's very interesting that you are mentioning that, in fact, a lot of kirtan come from song. That's so interesting to have this expressed like that. Yeah.
I think what they're maybe referring to is that, you don't really want to be taking like a pop song or specific certain songs and transferring them into kirtans, because the ideation behind the songs would be distracting. I think they were referring to that, but
Okay.
of course these all songs, the songs behind the Daspera Pakachuta, these are devotional songs. So you derive your kirtans from devotional songs, and then the ideation is helpful. It's actually very helpful.
Yeah, I see. That's what Anandam does. A lot of it.
Yeah.
and then it turned into
Exactly.
kirtan.
Yeah.
It seems there's always a debate between the traditionalists and the inspirationalists. The people who, through inspiration, create something new are always criticized for a while until it becomes tradition.
Yeah. I think you can't be, I think that I'm often inspired by traditional tunes. Like I love these Daspera Pakachuta Sunni. I love these tunes. They're traditional. I'm inspired by those. So I
Exactly.
think, you can be both.
Folk music is created by folk in the day that they
Yes,
have it, and then it becomes tradition 100 years later.
exactly.
Somebody makes it
Exactly.
up.
Yeah, that's it. And a lot of some of the Prabhat Sangeet that we have, we already make kirtan tunes, or Bhavana and Kivlan tunes, kirtans from those Prabhat Sangeet songs as well. Now, Anjani, did you
Yeah,
have your hand up?
I had a kind of a question about you kind of skipped over that one part, the Bhavanam Kevalam mantra,
Mm.
and how it was created, or what's special about it. Like, isn't it
Yeah,
special? Can you explain a little bit more about that, why we use it?
sure. Well, when Baba gave, Shishanandamurti gave that mantra, he was in the forest, wasn't he? He was visiting, I was outside Ranchi, and he went there to a government rest home, I think it was. And he was there and he was surrounded by forest. And I think he started off by saying to his devotees, can you hear something? I think he said something like that. Can you hear something? Can you hear something coming from the sky? Right? Can you hear something coming from the sky? And then I think Baba, he asked a few times, and eventually someone said, yes. I think they said, yes, I can hear something. I'm not sure they said Baba Nam or they said Nam Kevalam or something. They said like that. And then Baba said, yes, Baba Nam Kevalam. And what I understand from that is that this mantra is around us. It's in everything around us. We just can't hear it with our human ears, but it's everywhere around us. It's so deeply ensconced in every cell of this universe, or every cell of our being, that we are actually saying something that is intrinsic to us, so deeply intrinsic to us. That's why it's a universal mantra, because anyone can sing it and feel that vibration of love that is within each of us. That the universal vibration of love, of attraction, of connectedness, of oneness. It's in the skies, it's in the earth, it's everywhere around us, which is the meaning of Kevalam, all and everything.
Is there a form for our more modern Bhavanam Kevalam kirtans? I sometimes hear a form and then sometimes I don't. And I just wondered if there's a traditional form that's forming, or can you just do what you want? I know that we go ahead and answer that, I guess. Thanks.
Yes, I think, the traditional form obviously is, most traditional is like two parts, isn't it? Like in most, I think we're very used to singing kirtans in the form of a song. We have two parts, like a verse and a chorus, oftentimes. And sometimes we'll have a third part, which would be part of it, would be in a song, would be the bridge part. This is the way that we, as Westerners, kind of work often is with our kirtans. We have a song structure, a folk song structure, or even a pop song structure. We have that structure. But that's not true in Ra. They have the song as the bass line, but then from that they'll take the main melody and they'll sing that main melody for quite a long time. So they really feel like they're really in the flow, really in the groove of that main melody. And they won't change from that main melody until later on, when they're really deeply already in the flow. And then they'll bring in another part of that melody. And that is often called the Kiirtan, which is where the drummers come forward and they'll change the melody there. and then they'll sing that melody. But within that main melody, they'll make little improvisations as well to highlight different notes, to highlight different, to bring more excitement, more flavor, to bring more interest into the music. So their structure is different from ours, but I feel that Baba has said, actually, he said very clearly that Ananda Marga Kirtan is a blend between West and East. It's a blend. It's neither one or the other. You can hear often many Indian kirtans have a certain structure, a little bit closer to the Rari structure, and ours is more of like a song structure. And there is already a blending happening, and there'll be more of a blending, I think, over time. And I do feel that the Rari structure is very ecstatic. And the closer we move to that, keeping our own Western melodies, for example, but within a Rari structure, I think this is a profound way forward. And that's something that I want to work towards, is the combination. You know, I went to a DMS recently. I went to India this year and was listening to the kirtans, and there was one that was really popular at the time, and I learnt it on the guitar, and I went back to the naturopathic centre where Niranjan is, and he's from London, and I played that tune to a lot of the Indians who were staying there, and I said, where does this tune come from? Is it a Prabhat Sangeet tune? What? They said, no, it's not a Prabhat Sangeet tune, that someone created it, but they created it in a form like it's a real blend between East and West. It really is. The melody, the rhythms, and there's a really high part which is very Indian. You know, there's a really high climactic part. So I think...
Are you able to give us some examples of these now that demonstrate?
I can play you that tune. I can play you that tune, which is, I say, it was the most... Why I say it's the most popular is because I heard so many groups playing it, you know? I heard many groups playing this tune in their own way. Baba Nam, Kevalam, Baba Nam, Kevalam, Baba Nam, Kevalam, Baba Nam, Kevalam. Now, if I was doing Rari Kirtan, I would keep this line for a very long time, like 5 minutes, just singing that one melody, right? I'd sing it over and over and over again, and the energy would build. And then add some improvisations, and then do the singer part. So I'll start from the beginning again. Baba Nam, Kevalam, 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 Baba Nam, Kevalam. Sing part. Baba Nam, Kevalam, Baba Nam, Kevalam, Baba Nam, Kevalam, Baba Nam, Kevalam. So those are the two parts. And then we do this high part, they go. Baba Nam, Kevalam, Baba Nam, Kevalam, Baba Nam, Kevalam, Baba Nam, Take part two. Baba Nam, Kevalam, Baba Nam, Kevalam, Baba Nam, Kevalam, Baba Nam, Kevalam. And then they start that cycle again. But when I played it back to the Indians at the center, they say no. They'd say, yeah, it's not a Prabhat Sangeet. It's someone wrote it. It's an original tune. But when I played it to a Western friend, he said, "Oh, that sounds like a Western tune, except for the high part." So I really feel like we're moving closer towards a blend between East and West.
I have a question on one of my favorite tunes from your older album, the Red Earth Fusion, is it Daspera?
Yeah.
Rangini. Is that a Rar Kirtan?
Totally.
And the way you sing it too, and there's like seem to be like 3 parts to it. Anyway, that's one of my favorite. Could you give us a little taste of that one, maybe?
Yeah, that one is they say in Ra, they say that's the easiest of the Rari tunes. They teach that to the beginners. Yeah.
Can we stop the screen share so we can see you?
You want the guitar, did you say?
Can you stop the screen share?
Oh, yeah, sure. Here we go. Can you see the guitar? If you want the chords. That go in there. Dos, pera means 10. Dos means 10. Pera parts. 10 parts to that kirtan. They say that's the simplest one. There's many. Thing about this tune, it's in a major key, so it's got a very high sort of an uplifting, positive sort of a feeling to it.
Please play us some more samplings from Rar and also from others.
The other Rari one, which you might have heard, which is it's a Krishna. It comes from a song about Radha Krishna. It goes like this. traditional tune which I really love. It's called Sunni. This is called Sunni Katan. It's the second part of that Sunni rag. Bhavanama Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalamo Bhavanama Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalamo Bhavanama Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalamo Bhavanama Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalamo Bhavanamo Kevalamo Bhavanamo Kevalamo Bhavanamo Kevalamo Bhavanamo Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalamo Bhavanamo Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalamo. And then what they do is in between the main rags, they'll put their latest popular, composition. So it could be an original kirtan, or it can be something taken from a popular song, a Hindi movie song or something. So it's not all just the sun's coming in, isn't it? It's not all just the classical rags, kirtan rags, but they'll make it interesting as well. And they'll put in amongst the, in between the rags, they'll put these popular tunes. So in that album that I did, I put this tune, and that's a traditional way of working, is you put the main rags in between. The little original tunes happen in amongst the main ragas. So I'm in the habit of putting kirtans into a sequence, which is something that I feel is kind of helpful in terms of ideation. So if it's, for example, an Avata kirtan, like around late at night, then I might choose a romantic sort of path, a romantic feeling. So put a sequence of tunes together that have that path. Romantic feeling. And then you've got you will know this tune, something with a very strong, this particular tune you'll recognize, it's very old, and it was one that was really enjoyed by Baba. A friend of mine called Ashava put this together from the song itself, which is from a Spanish song which had a lot of strong social sentiment, a very revolutionary sentiment to it. And Baba asked for this. He really liked this tune. You'll know it. Yeah, it's really old, isn't it? So there's a story about that tune in the book it's called Walking with My Master by Graham Double. And there's a story about that tune in that book there, about how Baba requested it. Very lovely tune. And then if you feel like you want to do like a sequence of Prabhupada tunes, that's also really, really a nice way to go. If you have like an hour to play, you can put together a sequence of Kiirtan tunes like this one. Baba Nama Kiralam Baba comes from Amijedi Kitakai. Baba Nama Kiralam 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 Baba Nama So it's really nice to put together sequences of Kiirtan tunes when you're playing for a long period of time. I think we haven't got time for this, so I'm just going to go forward to, got a few minutes. The coal drum is a really important instrument for Kiirtan. Baba's talked about that. He says the coal drum attracts the mind, helping it to associate with the vibrations of the Kiirtan. And there's a whole tradition of making coal drums in Ra, which is ancient, Then there's a different, so many patterns that you learn on the coal drum, which are part of the Kiirtan tradition. So there's different rhythms that go with the different tunes that you can experiment with. There's a slow picking tempo, there's a medium tempo, there's a fast tempo that you can play around with the guitar to make the Kiirtan interesting. Importance of using instruments. Baba talks about in his discourse on the sound of God, about how different sounds resonate with different states of meditation. Things like bells, flutes, the sound of the ocean, the sound of crickets. But in terms of Kiirtan, the sound of bells are really important because they resonate, as I said, with different states of meditation. And flutes also really important. So if you play those instruments, please include them in the Kiirtan because they're very uplifting, Then the dance, it's a very important part of our Kiirtan practice because it's part of Samgit, which is part of Kiirtan. And the way we do it is, as Baba says, he says this dance can maintain adjustment with Kiirtan without causing fatigue in the human body because we want to be doing Kiirtan for a long time. So we need to remember to touch the toe behind. Baba calls that the doi, which is the spiritual touch. He calls it the spiritual touch. It's a purely spiritual dance. And what's interesting is that we are stepping with the right foot behind on the first beat of the bar. So we're dancing together. We're dancing with stepping with the right foot behind on the first strong beat of the bar. From the first beat of the bar, basically, which you can find by just watching the Kiirtan player, because we'll accent the guitar player will accent the first beat of the bar, and that's where the right foot goes behind. And you might be saying, well, why do we have to use the right foot? It's something that was sort of drummed into me when I was a new Māori in the 70s, to be using the right foot behind. And then somehow I think people forgot about it, but it's something that I carried with me. But scientifically, from a scientific point of view, 90% of people in the world are right-handed and right-footed. So it makes sense. Also, one of the other reasons that we start our other dances with the right foot, kaushiki, we start with the right foot as well. And so we're using a regular generally we're using a regular 4-beat pattern in our Kiirtan. It's different from kaushiki, which is a 17-beat pattern, but mostly in Kiirtan, Nama Kiirtan, it's 4-beat pattern. So it's not difficult to find the first beat of the bar. So this is the key. This is a secret. This is the key point to in terms of dancing together. If we dance, watching the guitar player playing that first strong accent, that's where we put our right foot, we'll be together. We'll be dancing together. And I was really interested when I went to DMS recently. I went to the children's home and many of us, and there's a group of girls there who've grown up together. And I can to be honest with you, it was the best kirtan that I experienced from in the whole DMS. They stood up, they danced all in time. They danced in time with the music, they danced together with each other. The tune was beautiful, and the ideation was so sweet. So, you know, these girls have grown up doing kirtan together, so it's really understandable. The aesthetics, I don't have time to go into that. But in Ra, you know, they take it very seriously. The kirtan groups, they have their own costumes, they coordinate colour. It's a very aesthetic experience. Everything is beautifully decorated. It's it's very beautiful. So social norms, kirtan protocol. Yeah, we know this. Not to take another's article without his or her permission means when we want to use a kirtan instrument, we have to realise that that's very precious to the musician. So I think that's just kind of common sense, really. There's kirtan across the world. There's kirtan in nearly every, as Baba said, there's in nearly every, majority of kirtan, of religious groups do kirtan. And if you do research, you'll come across so many beautiful kirtan traditions that are so deeply inspiring all across the globe. There's lots of beautiful, there's articles that Baba has written, you know, obviously from May 15th to 17. He gave a series of discourses on kirtan during DMC 1982. So there's something to read. It's very inspiring. These are just excerpts I took from the different kirtan groups in Ra, the things that they said about their kirtan, how it gives bliss to, just going to take this away, how it gives bliss to everyone in the village, how important it is socially, etc. I just want to end how kirtan is a medicine, physical, psychic and spiritual elements. There's also research being done on the difference between humming, singing song phrases and mantra singing. And from that they realized that they concluded that mantra singing created a focused and highly regular HRV frequency for individuals. That's heart rate variation. So we don't, when we're singing kirtan together, we're breathing together, we're feeling together. So it definitely has a strong, creates a strong sense of unity. I'm just going to go to, I guess what I just want to do right now is just to summarize it in terms of let's just say a little bit about the ideation. I read this article recently. It's in this book on Kiirtan that's recently come out, and it's talking about how after listening to spiritual discourse, you can you can ideate on your Sahasrara chakra during Kiirtan. But if you're going straight from not having read, spiritual discourses, then you're saying it's really good to ideate on your Agya chakra while doing Kiirtan. So I've heard different versions, but that's what's written, and I'm just passing that on to you. So if after spiritual talks you do Kiirtan, then ideate on your Sahasrara chakra, but if not, then ideate on your Agya chakra. So a little bit helpful hints there. And I think the main thing I do when I'm playing Kiirtan, I'm always trying to ask Baba, what is it that I'm always trying to tune into what I feel Baba is actually wanting me to do. So I'm even sometimes asking him internally, Baba, how are you feeling? What do you want? And then I wait for the answer. So I might ask him this question, and then I might, for example, get a chord might come to my mind. It could be an A chord or an A minor or a D. And from that I go through in my mind the Kiirtan tunes that I come to mind, and then I find the one that resonates. So it's a very intuitive process, the way that I'm working at the present moment in terms of what tunes to choose from. And I always try to ask for guidance when I'm playing Kiirtan, to ask Baba's guidance, which tunes would fit, which tunes should I sing right now, which tunes are you wanting me to sing right now. in Ra, it's not the same because they have already their tradition established, so they'll be playing tunes, and it's a collective process, a very collective process, whereas I feel like we're still moving towards that collectivity, and oftentimes it's down to the individual kirtan player to choose. But I think the way of the future is more of a collective way of choosing kirtans and having a repertoire of kirtans that you know together collectively, and then choosing from that repertoire. And there still being some sense of freedom as well, because in between the two, the traditional tunes, you can ask Baba's guidance as which popular, which current tune should I play now, which tune is coming through to be played, and that way connecting deeply and with that source, the source of love, the source of music, the source of ourselves, the source of our soul when we're playing kirtan.